Hey there, friends. Get ready for a super fun story that's gonna keep you hooked. Imagine this, it's a bright, sunny morning on my little farm. The sun is shining, the sky is blue, and everything feels peaceful. My chickens are clucking away, making their funny little noises cluck, cluck, cluck. My cows are munching on green grass, chewing like they don't have a care in the world. And me? I'm just sitting on my porch, holding a warm cup of coffee. It smells good, and I'm ready to relax. My name's Jake, and I'm the guy who takes care of this farm. I love it here. It's my happy place. Most people who live near me are nice. They wave hello, smile, and go about their day. They don't bother me, and I don't bother them. It's all good, right? But then there's Karen. Oh boy, Karen is different. She's not like the other neighbors. Nope, not even a little. Karen is the boss of something called the HOA. That stands for Homeowners Association. It's a group that makes rules for the neighborhood, like what color your house can be or how neat your yard has to look. And Karen? She thinks she's the queen of it all. Karen walks around like she owns everything. Her nose is always up in the air, and she's got this loud voice that makes my chickens flap their wings. She's always snooping, peeking over fences, and finding something to complain about. Your grass is too long, she'll say. Or, your mailbox looks old. She never stops. It's like she's on a mission to boss everyone around. Most people just roll their eyes and let her talk. But me? I'm the quiet guy. I don't say much. I just nod and keep doing my work. People see me as the farmer who doesn't make trouble. The guy who feeds the cows and fixes the barn. That's what they think, anyway. But here's the thing, Karen doesn't know everything about me. Nope, not even close. I've got a secret. It's a big one, too. It's something I keep hidden, like a treasure buried under the ground. And this secret? It's about to turn Karen's world upside down. She thinks she's so smart, always pointing fingers and telling me what to do. But she has no idea what's coming. It's gonna be a surprise, a really, really big surprise. Are you curious yet? I bet you are. Stick with me, because this story is gonna get wild. Let's talk about my farm for a second. It's not huge, but it's mine. I've got a red barn where the cows sleep, and a little coop for the chickens. There's a field with tall grass where the animals play, and a rickety old fence that keeps everything in place. I wake up every day, feed the animals, and make sure they're happy. It's hard work, but I like it. The air smells fresh, and the quiet is nice, well, until Karen shows up, anyway. She's like a storm cloud on a sunny day. You're enjoying the peace, and then boom, she's there, making noise. Karen's been the HOA boss for a while now. She wears fancy clothes and carries a little notebook where she writes down all the things she doesn't like. She's got this look on her face, like she's better than everyone else. The other neighbors whisper about her sometimes. Oh, that's just Karen, they say, shaking their heads. She's always like that. But me? I don't whisper. I just watch. I see her marching around, telling people what to do, acting like she's in charge of the whole world. And I think to myself, oh, Karen, you don't know what's coming. See, I'm not just a farmer. I mean, I love my cows and chickens, but there's more to me than that. I've been paying attention. I've been listening. And I've been keeping my secret safe, waiting for the right moment. Karen thinks I'm just some quiet guy who doesn't fight back. She thinks she can boss me around forever. But she's wrong. She's so wrong. And soon, she's gonna find out just how wrong she is. Picture this morning again. I'm on my porch, sipping my coffee. The chickens are clucking, the cows are chewing, and the sun is warm on my face. It feels like a normal day. But it's not. Not really. Because today is the day things start to change. Karen doesn't know it yet, but something big is about to happen. She's gonna walk over here, like she always does, ready to complain about something silly. Maybe my barn's too red. Maybe my cows are too loud. Who knows with her? But this time, it's different. This time, I'm ready. So, here's a fun question for you, who do you think Karen's gonna mess with today? She's always picking on someone, right? Is it me? Is it one of the neighbors? Drop your guess in the comments below. I wanna hear what you think. Oh, and while you're at it, tell me where you're watching from today. Are you at home? At school? Somewhere else? I love knowing where my story buddies are. And if you like crazy stories like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens next. Let me set the scene a little more. My farm's on the edge of the neighborhood. It's not fancy like the houses Karen loves. They've got big windows and perfect lawns. My place? It's got dirt and animals and a little bit of mess. That's why Karen hates it. She wants everything to look perfect, like a picture in a magazine. But farms aren't perfect. They're alive. They're real. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. Karen's house is down the road. It's the biggest one around, with a white fence and flowers all lined up. She's proud of it. You can tell by the way she talks. My house is the best, she'll say. Everyone should be more like me. But I've seen her sneaking around lately. Doing stuff she doesn't want people to know about. Stuff that's not so perfect. And me? I've been keeping track. Quietly. Carefully. Like a detective in a movie. So that's where we start. A sunny day, a quiet farm, and a nosy Karen who thinks she's the boss of everything. She's about to learn that not everyone is who they seem. I've got my coffee, my animals, and my secret. And Karen? She's got no clue what's coming her way. Are you ready to find out what happens next? I promise it's gonna be good. Stick around, because the story is just getting started. What do you think my secret is? Any guesses? Let me know in the comments. I can't wait to see what you come up with. Let's keep the fun going. Okay, friends, let's dive into the next part of this wild story. It's still that sunny morning on my farm. The chickens are clucking, the cows are munching, and I'm trying to enjoy my peaceful day. But then, here comes Karen. Oh boy, she's trouble on two legs. She strutted over to my farm like she owned the whole place. Her shoes clicked on the dirt, and her nose was stuck way up in the air, like she was sniffing for something to complain about. Karen's got this loud voice, super loud. It's so loud it makes my chickens flap their wings and run around like crazy. Jake, she yelled, pointing at me. Your cows are too loud, and that barn looks awful. Her words were sharp, like she was barking at a dog. She didn't even say hi or ask how I was. Nope, she just started complaining right away. Then she pulled out her fancy HOA rule book. It's this little book with all the neighborhood rules in it. She waved it in front of my face like it was a magic wand that could make me do whatever she wanted. This says your farm has to look nice, she said, tapping the book with her finger. And it doesn't. I stood there, looking at her. My barn's red paint is a little chipped, sure, but it's not awful. And my cows? They're just mooing like cows do. That's their job. But Karen didn't care. She kept going on and on. The noise is too much, Jake. And that barn is an eyesore. An eyesore means something ugly, by the way. She thinks my farm is ugly, and she wants everyone to know it. I didn't say much back. I just nodded my head and said, okay, Karen. My voice was calm, quiet like always. But inside? Oh, inside I was smirking. That's when you smile a little because you know something funny or sneaky. See, Karen thought she was winning. She thought she could boss me around and I'd just listen like a good little farmer. But she didn't know the truth. I'd been watching her. Not in a creepy way, but in a smart way. For weeks, I'd been keeping my eyes on her, and I'd seen some stuff, big stuff. Karen's been breaking rules. Not little ones, like forgetting to mow the grass. Nope, these are big, sneaky rules. The kind of rules that could get her in a lot of trouble. She didn't think anyone noticed, especially not me. To her, I'm just Jake, the quiet guy with the cows and the barn. She thought she could yell at me and wave her rulebook and I'd just say, yes, Karen, forever. But I had something cooking, something she'd never see coming. Let's back up a bit. Karen's been coming to my farm a lot lately. Every few days, she shows up with a new problem. One time, she said my fence was too tall. Another time, she said my tractor made too much noise when I drove it. She'd stand there, hands on her hips, telling me how everything I do is wrong. This farm doesn't fit the neighborhood, she'd say. The HOA won't stand for it. I'd just nod and go back to my work. I'd feed the chickens or fix the fence, acting like her words didn't bother me. But they did. Not because I cared what she thought, oh no. They bothered me because I knew she was a fake. See, while Karen was busy yelling at me, I was busy watching her. I'd see her walking around the neighborhood at night, when she thought no one was looking. She'd sneak around, doing things she didn't want anyone to know about. I won't tell you what yet, that's part of the big surprise. But let's just say she wasn't following her own fancy rule book. She was breaking rules left and right, and I was collecting clues. Little bits here, little bits there. Like a puzzle I was putting together in my head. That morning, when she came stomping over, I could have told her everything I knew. I could have said, "Hey, Karen, I know what you've been up to." But I didn't. I kept quiet. I let her talk and talk, waving that book in my face. Inside, I was laughing a little. Not out loud, just in my brain. Because every time she bossed me around, she was making her own mess bigger. She didn't know it, but I was ready. I had a plan. And it was gonna hit her like a big bucket of cold water. Karen kept going. "You need to fix this farm, Jake," she said. "It's ruining everything." Her face was red, and her eyes were all squinted, like she was super mad. I just looked at her, sipping my coffee. It was still warm, and it tasted good. I wasn't gonna let her ruin my morning. "Okay, Karen," I said again, real slow. She huffed, like a dragon puffing smoke, and turned to walk away. She thought she'd won. She thought I was scared of her and her silly rule book. But she was so wrong. Here's the thing, I'm not loud like Karen. I don't yell or wave books around. I'm the guy who stays quiet and watches. And that's why I knew stuff she didn't. That's why I had something cooking, something big and sneaky. She thought she could keep bossing me around forever, but I was done playing her game. My farm might not be perfect to her, but it's mine. And I wasn't gonna let her push me around anymore. So there we were. Karen strutting off, thinking she was the queen. Me standing by my barn, sipping my coffee, smirking inside. The chickens calmed down, clucking softly again. The cows kept munching their grass. Everything looked normal. But it wasn't. Not really. Because I had my secret, and Karen had her big mistake. She thought she was in charge, but she didn't know I'd been watching her for weeks. She didn't know I had proof. And she didn't know what was coming next. Stick around, friends, because this is where it gets good. Karen thought she could scare me with her loud voice and her rule book. But I had something better, something that was gonna turn everything upside down. What do you think I saw her doing? Any guesses? Drop them in the comments below. I can't wait to hear what you think. This story's heating up, and you won't want to miss what happens next. Alright, friends, let's keep this story rolling. Days went by after that sunny morning when Karen yelled at me. The sun kept shining, my chickens kept clucking, and my cows kept munching grass. Everything seemed normal on my little farm. But Karen? Oh, she wouldn't leave me alone. She kept coming back, over and over, like a pesky fly buzzing around your picnic. Every time she showed up, she had something new to complain about. One day, she stomped over and yelled, "Your fence is too tall." She pointed at my old wooden fence like it was the worst thing she'd ever seen. I looked at it. It's just a fence, right? It keeps my cows safe. But to Karen, it was a big problem. "It's against the rules," she said, shaking her head. Another day, she came by and shouted, "Your tractor's too noisy." I was driving it across the field, moving some hay, and yeah, it makes a little rumble. Tractors do that. But Karen didn't care. She stood there with her hands on her hips, glaring at me like I'd ruined her whole day. Every time she showed up, I'd just smile. Not a big smile, just a little one. I'd nod my head and say, "Okay, Karen, then go back to my work." I'd toss some grain to the chickens or hammer a loose board on the barn. I didn't argue. I didn't yell back. I just kept doing my stuff, nice and quiet. But here's the thing, while Karen was busy yelling at me, I was busy noticing stuff. Big stuff. Sneaky stuff. Stuff she didn't want anyone to know about. See, late at night, when the moon was up and the stars were twinkling, I'd sit on my porch. It's a good spot to relax after a long day. The farm gets real quiet then, no clucking, no mooing, just crickets chirping. But sometimes, I'd see something moving out there in the dark. It was Karen. Yup, Karen. She'd sneak around the neighborhood when she thought everyone was asleep. She'd creep along the street, looking over her shoulder like she was scared someone might catch her. And guess what? I caught her not with my hands, but with my eyes. What was she doing? Oh, I'll tell you a little bit but not everything yet. I'd see her carrying stuff, big bags or boxes, into her garage. She'd look around real quick, then shut the door fast. Other nights, I'd spot her digging in her backyard. Digging. With a little shovel, like she was hiding something. She'd be out there for a while, then cover it up and sneak back inside. I didn't know exactly what it was, but I knew it wasn't good. Karen was up to something sneaky, something secret, and I was starting to figure it out. I didn't tell anyone. Nope, not a word. I kept quiet, like always. But in my head, I was taking little notes. Every time I saw her sneaking, I'd think, gotcha, Karen. I'd remember what I saw: the bags, the digging, the way she looked so nervous. It was like collecting pieces of a puzzle. Piece by piece, I was putting it together. And every time she came to my farm to yell at me, I'd think, oh, Karen, you're digging your own hole. Not a real hole like in her yard, just a saying that means she was getting herself in trouble. The neighbors didn't see any of this. To them, Karen was perfect. She had her big house with the white fence and the pretty flowers. She'd smile at them during the day and talk about how great the neighborhood was. We need to keep things nice, she'd say, all cheerful. They believed her. They'd nod and say, oh, Karen's so good at running the HOA. But I knew better. I saw the real Karen, the one who sneaked around at night, doing stuff she didn't want anyone to find out about. Days turned into weeks, and Karen kept bothering me. Your chickens are too messy, she'd shout. Your barn smells bad. I'd just smile and keep working, feeding the animals, fixing the fence, sipping my coffee. She thought she was winning. She thought I was scared of her loud voice and her fancy HOA rules. But I wasn't. Not one bit. Because every time she pointed a finger at me, I'd think about what I'd seen. I'd think about her secrets. And I'd smirk inside, knowing something big was brewing. Brewing means something's cooking up, like a pot of soup getting ready to bubble over. And oh boy, this was gonna be a big bubble. I didn't know all the details yet, but I had enough clues to know Karen was in trouble. She thought she could keep bossing me around, telling me my farm was wrong, my cows were loud, my fence was bad. But she didn't know I was watching. She didn't know I was waiting. Waiting for the right moment to let her trip over her own mess. The neighbors kept smiling at her, thinking she was the best. Karen's so strict, they'd say, like it was a good thing. She keeps everything perfect. But I'd see her at night, sneaking and digging, and I'd think, perfect. Nope. She was hiding something, and I was the only one who knew. Well, me and my chickens, maybe they'd cluck at her when she walked by. But they couldn't tell anyone. I could, but I didn't. Not yet. I was saving it. So there I was, working on my farm, smiling at Karen's complaints, keeping my little notes in my head. She'd yell, I'd nod, and the days went on. But every night, I'd watch. I'd see her sneak around, and I'd add another piece to my puzzle. Something big was coming, something that'd make her stop yelling and start sweating. I couldn't wait for her to find out. I couldn't wait for her to trip right into the trap she didn't even see. What do you think she was hiding? A secret treasure? Something silly? Something bad? Drop your guesses in the comments. I love hearing what you think. This story's getting juicier, and we're not done yet. Stick with me, because Karen's about to learn a big lesson, and it's gonna be so much fun to watch. Alright, friends, hold on tight, this is the best part of the story. Everything's been building up, and now it's time for the big moment. It was one afternoon, and the sun was still hanging out in the sky, making my farm all warm and bright. My chickens were pecking at the dirt, my cows were chewing grass, and I was just minding my own business. Then, out of nowhere, Karen came storming up to my farm. She was mad, really, really mad. Her face was red, her eyes were squinty, and she had her phone in her hand like it was a weapon. "That's it, Jake," she screamed, so loud my chickens flapped their wings. "I'm calling 911. Your farm's a disgrace." She held up her phone and started dialing those three numbers 9-1-1 like she was some kind of superhero saving the day. She punched the buttons hard, glaring at me the whole time. "This place is a mess," she yelled. "The noise, the smell, the ugly barn, it's all gotta stop. The police are gonna fix this." She thought she had me. She thought she was finally gonna win. I didn't move. I just leaned against my barn, cool as a cucumber. My arms were crossed over my chest, and I looked at her with a little smile. "Go ahead, Karen," I said, real calm and quiet. My voice didn't shake. I wasn't scared. Not one bit. She kept yelling into her phone, telling the person on the other end all about my awful farm. "Yes, officer," she said. "You need to come right now. This guy's ruining everything." She was so busy shouting, she didn't even hear the sound of tires crunching on the road. But I did. Oh yeah, I heard it. A police car was rolling up, nice and slow. The red and blue lights weren't flashing yet, but I could see it coming closer. Karen didn't notice. She was too busy waving her arms and talking loud. She thought she was the one calling the cops on me. But here's the big secret: she wasn't. See, I'd called them earlier that day. Yup, me. Not about my farm, though. Oh no. I called them about her. And now, they were here. The car stopped right by my fence, and two police officers stepped out. They had shiny badges and serious faces. Karen finally saw them, and she grinned like she'd just won a prize. "Good," she said, pointing at me. "Arrest this guy. His farm's breaking all the rules." But the cops didn't look at me. They didn't even glance at my barn or my cows. Instead, they walked right up to Karen. Her grin started to fade, like ice melting in the sun. "Ma'am," one officer said, his voice deep and steady. He looked at Karen, not me. "We need to talk about those stolen HOA funds." Boom. There it was, the big reveal. Karen's face went white, like all the color just whooshed out of her. Her eyes got big, and her mouth opened, but no words came out. She looked like a ghost standing there, frozen in the dirt. The cops kept talking. "We got a call about some missing money," the other officer said. "Money that was supposed to help the neighborhood. Seems like it ended up in your pockets instead." "Yup, that's right. Karen had been stealing. All that cash the neighbors gave to the HOA for fixing roads and planting flowers. She'd been sneaking it for herself. She thought no one knew. She thought she was so smart, hiding it away. But I figured it out. I'd been watching her for weeks, those sneaky nights with the bags, the digging in her yard. It wasn't treasure or junk she was hiding. It was proof. Receipts, bank papers, little notes about the money she took. And I found it all. See, one night, I got curious. I didn't sneak into her yard or anything crazy, I'm not a thief like her. But I saw some papers blow out of her trash can when the wind kicked up. I picked them up, just to see. And guess what? They showed numbers, big numbers of money going missing. Then I matched it with stuff I heard from neighbors. The playground's still broken, they'd say. Where's the HOA cash? It all clicked. Karen was pocketing it, and I had the proof right in my hands. So that morning, before she even showed up, I called the cops. I told them everything, what I saw, what I found. I gave them the papers and said, "Check this out." They said they'd come by later to talk to her. And now, here they were. Karen thought she was catching me with her 911 call, but I'd already caught her. Red-handed. That means she couldn't wiggle out of it, she was busted big time. Karen started stammering. What?" she said, her voice all shaky. No, you've got it wrong." I didn't, but the cops weren't buying it. "We've got evidence, ma'am," one said, holding up a folder. Inside were the papers I gave them, plus more stuff they'd found. Her eyes darted around, looking for a way out, but there wasn't one. She was stuck. I just stood there, leaning on my barn, watching it all. My little smile got a bit bigger. Karen's phone slipped from her hand and hit the ground with a thud. She wasn't yelling anymore. She wasn't waving her rulebook or bossing anyone. She was caught, and she knew it. The neighbors started peeking out their windows, wondering what was happening. They saw the cops, saw Karen's ghost face, and started whispering. The officer looked at her and said, "You're coming with us." Karen shook her head, fast. "No, this is a mistake. Jake's the problem, not me." She pointed at me again, but the cops didn't even turn their heads. "We're not here for him," they said. "We're here for you." And just like that, her superhero act was over. She wasn't the queen anymore. She was just a thief who got caught. I didn't say much. I didn't need to. My plan worked. All those weeks of watching, all those little notes in my head, they led to this. Karen thought she could scare me with her loud voice and her 911 call. But I turned it around. I had the proof, I made the call, and now she was the one in trouble. How's that for a twist? Stick around, friends, this isn't the end yet. What do you think happens to Karen next? Drop your ideas in the comments, I can't wait to hear them. This story's popping like popcorn, and we've still got more to go. Okay, friends, let's wrap up this wild ride. The big moment just happened, Karen got caught, and now it's time to see what happens next. Picture this, the police officers are standing right there on my farm, in front of my cows. The sun's still shining, my chickens are clucking a little, and Karen? Oh boy, she's in big trouble. The cops didn't waste any time. They pulled out a pair of shiny handcuffs, those metal bracelets they put on people who break the law. Click. They snapped them right onto Karen's wrists. She didn't like that one bit. Nope. Karen yelled and squirmed, twisting her arms like a fish on a hook. "Let me go," she shouted. "This is wrong. You can't do this." Her voice was loud, but it wasn't bossy anymore, it was scared. She kicked her feet a little and tried to pull away, but the cops were strong. They held her tight and said, "Calm down, ma'am. It's over." And it was. Karen's big game was done. She couldn't boss anyone around now. Turns out, Karen had been stealing for months. Yup, months. All that money the neighbors gave to the HOA, the stuff for fixing potholes, planting flowers, or building a new playground, she'd been sneaking it into her own pockets. She thought no one would notice. She thought she was too smart to get caught. But I noticed. I'd been watching her, collecting clues like a detective in a mystery book. And now, it all came crashing down on her. I stepped forward, real calm, and handed over my evidence. What's evidence? It's the proof that shows someone did something wrong. I had a whole pile of it, bank records with numbers showing the missing money, sneaky photos I'd snapped of her digging in her yard, and even those papers I found in her trash. I'd been keeping it all safe, waiting for the right day. And this was that day. I gave it to the cops, and they nodded. "Good work," one said, flipping through the folder. "This is everything we need." Karen's face went even whiter, like a sheet of paper. "Where'd you get that?" she yelled at me. "You can't do this, Jake." But I just shrugged. "I didn't steal anything, Karen," I said. "You did." She didn't have an answer for that. She just stood there, cuffed, staring at the ground. The cops started walking her toward their car, and she didn't look like a queen anymore. She looked small, like someone who'd lost everything. The neighbors were watching now. Oh yeah, they couldn't help it. Heads popped up in windows all down the street. Curtains moved, eyes peeked out, and jaws dropped like their mouths just fell open in shock. They saw Karen in handcuffs, and they saw the cops leading her away. Whispers started flying. "What's happening?" someone said. "Karen's in trouble," another asked. They couldn't believe it. To them, she'd been the perfect HOA boss, always smiling, always strict. But now they saw the truth. She wasn't perfect. She was a thief. Me. I didn't make a big fuss. I just waved at the neighbors, real casual, like it was no big deal. "Hey there," I said, giving a little nod. Then I turned around and went back to my porch. My coffee was still there, waiting for me. It wasn't as warm anymore, but it still tasted good. I sat down, took a sip, and watched as the cops put Karen in the back of their car. She was still yelling a little, but the door shut, and it got quiet. The police drove off, lights flashing, now red and blue, spinning down the road. And just like that, she was gone. Things changed fast after that. The HOA needed a new leader, and they got one quick. One of the nice neighbors stepped up, a lady named Mrs. Carter. She's got gray hair and a big smile, and she doesn't yell at anyone. "Let's fix the playground," she said at the next meeting. "And maybe plant some new flowers." Everyone liked that idea. No more stealing, no more sneaky stuff, just people working together. The neighborhood felt happier already. And my farm? Oh, it's never been quieter or more respected. With Karen gone, no one came by to complain about my cows or my barn. The neighbors started waving more, saying hi when I drove my tractor. "Nice farm, Jake," one guy called out one day. "Love the chickens," a kid shouted another time. It felt good. My fence was still tall, my tractor still rumbled, but no one cared anymore. They saw me differently now, not just the quiet farmer, but the guy who stopped Karen's tricks. I kept doing my work, same as always. Feeding the animals, fixing the barn, sipping my coffee on the porch. The chickens clucked, the cows mooed, and the sun kept shining. It was peaceful again, like it was supposed to be. Karen learned the hard way: don't mess with the guy who knows your secrets. She thought she could boss me around forever, pointing fingers and waving her rule book. But I'd been watching. I'd been waiting. And when the time was right, I showed everyone who she really was. The cops took all my evidence and said they'd handle it. Karen had to face the consequences. That means she'd get in trouble for what she did. Maybe she'd have to give the money back. Maybe she'd even go to jail for a while. I didn't know for sure, and I didn't need to. My part was done. I'd caught her, handed her over, and now my farm was safe. That's all I wanted. The neighbors talked about it for days. "Can you believe it?" they'd say. "Karen, stealing." And Jake knew the whole time. They'd laugh a little, shake their heads, and go back to their lives. Me? I just smiled and kept to myself. I didn't need a big thank you or a party. I had my farm, my animals, and my quiet days. That was enough. So that's how it ended: justice served, nice and simple. Karen's loud voice was gone, her sneaky days were over, and my farm was back to normal. She thought she could scare me, but I turned it around. And now, everyone knew, you don't mess with someone who's got the truth on their side. What a day, right? What do you think, friends? Did Karen deserve it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I love hearing what you say. This story's almost done, but we've got one more fun part to go. Stick with me. Hey there, friends. We've made it to the end of this crazy story about Karen and my farm. It's been a wild ride, hasn't it? Now it's time to sit back, take a big breath, and think about what happened. I've got something to share with you, something that might make you smile or even help you out someday. So, grab a cozy spot, and let's talk about it. Here's the thing: sometimes the person who acts the loudest has the most to hide. Think about Karen. She was always yelling, always pointing fingers, always acting like she was the boss of everything. Her voice was big, her steps were loud, and she waved that HOA rulebook like it made her a queen. She wanted everyone to listen to her, to think she was perfect. But all that noise? It was just a trick. She was hiding something sneaky, stealing money, breaking rules, digging holes in the dark. The louder she got, the more she had to cover up. Funny how that works, right? Me. I was the opposite. I stayed quiet. I didn't yell back or fight her with big words. I just watched. Day after day, I fed my chickens, sipped my coffee, and kept my eyes open. I saw her sneaking around at night. I picked up those papers from her trash. I took little notes in my head, waiting for the right moment. And that's what turned the tables. Turning the tables means flipping things around, like when you think you're losing, but then you win. Being quiet didn't mean I was weak. It meant I was smart. It meant I was ready. So here's a little tip for you: next time someone tries to push you around, don't get mad right away. Don't shout or stomp your feet. Just smile a little, sneaky smile, and think to yourself, what don't they want me to know? People who act big and loud might be hiding something. Maybe they're scared. Maybe they're wrong. Maybe they're trying to trick you. But if you watch and wait, you might figure it out. You might find the truth they don't want you to see. And the truth, It always comes out. Always. Look at what happened with Karen. She thought she could keep her secrets forever. She thought yelling at me and calling 911 would make her the winner. But the truth popped out like a jack-in-the-box surprise. I had the proof, the cops came, and everyone saw who she really was. All her loud words couldn't save her. The quiet guy with the farm. He's the one who won. Not because I was loud or mean, but because I paid attention. That's a pretty cool lesson, don't you think? Life's kind of like that sometimes. You might have a Karen in your world, someone who's bossy or tries to make you feel small. Maybe it's a kid at school who's always bragging. Maybe it's someone who says you can't do something. They might seem big and strong, but don't let that fool you. Stay calm. Watch them. Think about what they're really up to. You don't have to fight with fists or shout with words. Sometimes, just being you quiet, smart, and brave is enough to win the day. I'm glad it worked out for me. My farm's peaceful now. The cows moo, the chickens cluck, and no one's yelling about my fence anymore. The neighbors wave and smile, and I wave back. Karen's gone, off to face her consequences, and the HOA's got a new leader who's nice to everyone. It feels good, like a sunny day after a big storm. I didn't need to be loud to fix things. I just needed to be me. And that's a pretty awesome feeling. So what about you? What did you think of the story? I'd love to hear. Was Karen's big downfall a surprise? Did you cheer when the cops showed up? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and they make me smile. Tell me where you're watching from, too. Are you at home with a snack? Outside on a swing? I wanna know. Oh, and if you liked this adventure, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. I've got more fun stories up my sleeve. Before I go, here's one last thing to think about: you're stronger than you know. Yup, you. Even if you're quiet, even if you feel small sometimes, you've got power inside you. It's not about being the loudest or the toughest. It's about being smart, kind, and brave in your own way. Karen didn't see that in me, and look what happened: she tripped right over her own mess. So hold your head up, keep your eyes open, and don't be afraid to wait for the truth. It'll show up, just like it did on my farm. Thanks for sticking with me, friends. This story started with a loud Karen and ended with a quiet win. I hope it made you laugh, cheer, or maybe even think a little. What's next? Who knows, but I'll be back with another tale soon. Until then, take care, be awesome, and keep smiling. You've got this. See you in the next story.